This coconut cake with box mix recipe is easy and delicious. Coconut cake is one of the most delicious as well as most elegant of the southern layer cakes, and even though it is kind of a hassle to make, I think that I can make a recipe starting with a cake mix that everyone will enjoy. I'm starting off with one 15.25 ounce box of white cake mix, along with one 3.4 ounce box of coconut cream instant pudding. If you can't find coconut pudding mix, you can definitely just use vanilla. I'm also going to add half a cup of sour cream or 120 grams. I'm using fat-free, but you could use light or regular sour cream as well. I'm also adding 1 cup of water or 240 grams. If you want to use buttermilk instead, you can. Just replace the sour cream with 1 cup 240 grams of buttermilk and leave out most of the water. Maybe only use 2 tablespoons to maybe a quarter of a cup. I know you might be thinking that coconut milk would be appropriate in coconut cake, and I agree that it would as well. However, if you research the traditional recipes, coconut cake consists of layers of white cake, usually with no coconut flavor, and the coconut instead is added in the form of coconut flakes that are added to a cooked frosting that's then spread all over the cake. I know I just said that the traditional southern coconut cake did not have coconut in the cake layers, but I'm going to add some. In my opinion, it just makes sense, so I'm going to add 1 cup or 120 grams of sweetened shredded coconut. I usually add whole large eggs to my layer cakes, but this time I'm just going to use 3 large egg whites. Besides tasting like coconut, after doing research on this recipe, I think that part of what makes a southern coconut cake a coconut cake is that it's pure white. So in order to ensure that the layers are as pure white as possible, I'm going to use egg whites. I'm also going to add half a stick or 4 tablespoons of melted butter, along with 1 teaspoon of coconut extract and 1 tablespoon of white vinegar. I know that the vinegar may seem a bit odd, but it's going to help create an acidic environment that's not only going to help make the cake lighter and fluffier, but it's also going to help cut down on the sweetness. The box of cake mix has sugar, as does the box of instant pudding. And I don't want the sweetened flaked coconut to make this cake too sweet. Once you have all of your ingredients together, all you have to do is add them to the bowl. Now that all of my ingredients are in the bowl, I'm going to blend with my electric mixer for 30 to 60 seconds. Now that I'm done mixing the batter for my coconut cake, I'm going to pour it into my prepared 8-inch cake pans while I preheat the oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. My cake layers are now ready for the oven. I just took a small spoon and smoothed them out like this. And of course, I use my food scale to make sure that both layers had the same amount of batter. Now I'm going to bake them at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll tell you for how long. I just took my coconut cake out of the oven. It was in at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes. Like I said earlier in the video, classic southern coconut cake usually has a cooked frosting with the coconut flakes inside it. However, that is a lot to go through, a lot of quilombo as the Argentines would say, so I just decided to use my no butter cream cheese frosting recipe and then add some flaked coconut on top of it. I could have added the coconut directly to the cream cheese frosting like what I did when I made my Italian cream cake, but I wasn't sure exactly how much shredded coconut I wanted to use, so instead, first I put down some of the cream cheese frosting and then I put some coconut on top of that. About a quarter of a cup or 30 grams. For the middle layer of frosting, you want some coconut on top of the frosting, but you don't want too much. The frosting acts as a type of glue holding the two layers of the cake together, so if you put too much shredded coconut in the middle, the frosting won't be able to do its job. That's why after lightly coating the frosting in the middle of the cake with some shredded coconut, like I said, about a quarter of a cup, maybe a little bit less, I decided to mix in a little bit of extra frosting just to be on the safe side. I just finished adding a little more cream cheese frosting and then spreading it out along with the coconut. I think that you definitely could add the coconut to the frosting. I'm pretty sure I did that with my Italian cream cake, but I'm not quite sure exactly how much how much coconut I want to use. So that is why I did not do that. Now I'm just going to take the top layer, shake it off to the side to get rid of some of the crumbs, put that on top. Now continue frosting. Once the entire cake was frosted, I added some shredded coconut to the top of the cake, just like I did to the middle. Once again, I used about a quarter of a cup or 30 grams of shredded coconut. For the sides, I'm going to start off with 90 grams or 3/4 of a cup, I believe. Putting anything on the sides of a cake is a bit challenging. People say the easiest way is to hold a cake in your hands, but I am kind of afraid of doing that, so I'm just going to do this. Let's see if I can just push it on the sides like that, and then the coconut that falls off, I'll see if I can pick it up and stick it to the sides of the cake where it's missing. I just finished sticking the coconut onto the cake. I use probably in both the cake layers and on the cake and the bit inside of the cake, I would say about 2/3 of a 12-ounce bag. I use some of the coconut from that one bag for another recipe. So if you buy one 12-ounce bag of shredded coconut, that's how it's usually sold in the United States. I'm not sure about other countries, but you will have enough coconut for not only the cake layers, but also the outside of the cake. Now I'm going to put this in the refrigerator in my cake carrier. If you don't have a cake carrier, that's fine. But I'm going to cover it because sometimes shredded coconut, when it's exposed to the air, it can dry out a bit. I'm going to chill it for a few hours, and then I am going to enjoy. After chilling in the refrigerator for a few hours, I was ready to dive into this coconut cake. This was actually my first time not only making this cake, but also trying this cake, so I was really curious. Honestly, this southern coconut cake with box mix and sour cream was absolutely delicious. Before making a recipe for the first time, I do a lot of research and thinking and planning. And for this one, I went back and forth a lot trying to decide whether or not I wanted to toast the coconut. Like I said at the beginning of the video, most recipes for classic southern coconut cake do not call for toasted coconut. I think the reason for that, along with only using egg whites, is so that the cake is a pure white. I really liked how the toasted coconut flavored the Italian cream cake, so I definitely did consider toasting it, but since I thought that the pure whiteness of a coconut cake was such a characteristic element of the classic recipe, I decided to not toast the coconut. Even though I skipped a step that I knew could have added a ton of flavor, this cake was still extremely good. It definitely tasted like coconut, but maybe not quite as much as the Italian cream cake. However, all the flavors came together in this coconut cake with box mix to make a flavor that can only be described as heavenly. There was definitely the flavor of coconut there, like I said, but it was subtle yet strong and mixed with other things, and together with the great texture, it was just awesome. Adding sour cream to the batter was a really good idea because it helped to make this cake light and fluffy. Breaking with tradition and adding some shredded coconut directly to the cake layers was a good idea because I think it enhanced the coconut flavor. Although I've never had this cake with the cooked icing, I think the cream cheese frosting did a really good job of balancing out the sweetness. The tanginess of the sour cream offsetting the added sweetness from the sweetened coconut. In all honesty, I was really surprised by just how good this cake was, so I highly recommend that you give it a try. By doctoring up a box of cake mix, you can make a delicious southern layer cake that would be great for Easter, Christmas, a Sunday dinner, or just because. This is one of my new favorite cakes, so I will definitely be making this again. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.